Hey guys, it's Iron Germ, and I spent so much time to make this video. I watched every single X-Men movie over the last few weeks, and my god, there were times where I watched 4 movies within one day.
You're a loser!
And it was so worth it, because I actually like this version of the X-Men. And I was originally gonna make a prep review for this series, like just talk about each movie as I go on and give you my whole opinion about it, but that's not interesting enough. So instead, I decided to make the ultimate X-Men movie tier list. At first, I was gonna try doing this before Deadpool and Wolverine came out, but it was taking too long. So I decided to add it into this tier list to make it even better. And before we get to ranking, let's talk about the series as a whole.
Boring! Straight yapping, bro. Get to the video. Damn!
X-Men was pretty fun to watch, and it's surprising how well it aged considering how bad a lot of superhero movies were back in the day. X-Men 1 was the movie that introduced many people to the franchise, and because of that, it gained many new fans after it came out. This movie had a basic plot, but it's not a bad thing in this case because it introduces the best parts about the X-Men to new audiences well enough. It introduces many of the beloved mutant characters, it has the interesting politics that the comics were known for, and seeing both Wolverine and Rogue introduce us to this version of the X-Men universe was very entertaining to watch. Not only did these characters introduce us to this world well, but audiences were attached to these characters throughout the entire movie, especially Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. Everyone, including the executives at Fox, knew that he was the character that people cared most for, and that led to Wolverine getting his own series of movies within the X-Men franchise. The characters that I got super attached to personally, besides Wolverine, are both Patrick Stewart's Charles Xavier and my favorite character, Ian McKellen's Magneto. These 3 in general are my favorite part of the movie, especially since the rest of the lead X-Men are terrible. Cyclops is a plank of wood, Jean Grey is an empty soul inside a mutant body, and Storm is just a thing.
Do you know what happens to a toad when it's struck by lightning? The same thing that happens to everything else.
From here on out, this is going to stay as my biggest issue with this series. While I absolutely love some characters, there were others that were absolutely terrible. Cyclops especially. He's in this movie just because he's one of the essential X-Men in the comics. The writers don't care about him whatsoever, and because of that, he has no personality in this movie or any aura at all. He just simply appears in the movie just cause he has to. Before I rewatched this movie, I saw the 90s cartoon, and Cyclops was awesome in that show. He's an actual leader and a cool guy. Seeing him be a loser in this series is so frustrating, and that goes for the rest of the characters I didn't like too.
Cyclops, right? You want to get out of my way?
You either follow orders like the other members of this team, or you're out of it. It'll take all of us working together for a change.
Another negative I have with this movie is that the action is pretty forgettable. Mystique was pretty OP, but besides that, I wasn't impressed by anything done in this movie. Besides all the negatives though, I still give this movie a positive rating since the characters and world building made it very enjoyable to watch. The casting was incredible and it did a very good job at starring the franchise I love, especially for a superhero movie that came out in the year 2000. So I'm gonna be generous and put it on A tier. The movie gets a 4-star rating from me. Hey Brian, hit it like Otani!
That is a smash. I can't even see it, but I heard it. Oh, it's gotta be long gone. It is.
Oh yeah, already at S tier. After the setup with X-Men 1, we get a lot of major improvements with X-Men 2. There's a lot of great new characters in this movie. We got Nightcrawler, Colossus, and William Stryker. Not only that, but we get to interact with the other students a lot more in this movie, which was very entertaining to see. Even Storm ended up acting like a normal character for once. She's actually likable in this movie. If only I could say the same for Cyclops and Jean Grey. I hate them. There's a lot more action here compared to the first one too, and it's super entertaining to watch, especially the scenes where we see the school get attacked, which led Wolverine and the other mutants to protect the other students, which is so awesome. The plot is especially a lot better than the original one here. Thanks to Stryker being the main villain, we get to see the X-Men and Magneto's team work together to stop Stryker, and of course, we get to see Wolverine reflect on his traumatic past, the Weapon X story. Many people were impressed by what this movie had to offer with its story. I like X-Men 2 so much that it's hard for me to think of what's bad about it. Okay, there's some things. The ending. Because Jean Grey dies, and this is where we start the Phoenix Saga. This is only the second movie. Did X-Men 3 end this series, or at least this trilogy, on a high note?
Nope.
Again! Nope.
X-Men Last Stand definitely made some decisions. Here's a hot take for you. I actually liked this movie at first, but then I realized some of those decisions that the movie made were insanely dumb. Before I get to the hating, let me explain what I liked about it. The action was definitely the best out of the trilogy. Magneto and Wolverine were still great here. I like the politics in this movie, seeing the whole situation surrounding the mutant cure serum. There's a lot of entertaining scenes at the school too. We got Beast, which was pretty cool. That's pretty much it. The Phoenix Saga is terrible in this movie, and for some reason it gets sidelined at times for other plots, which is very weird because it's supposed to be like a big event, you know? Cyclops just died. He's dead as soon as he sees Jean again. I feel nothing for him anyways. I don't know why they bothered doing that. And also, the Phoenix kills Professor Charles right in front of Magneto, yet he some reason just lets her join his team rather than try to kill her. I would think that he would rather get revenge because, you know, that's his best friend, but maybe that's just me. And also, Rogue, for some reason, just takes the mutant cure to become a normal person? That's terrible. The 90s cartoon had a similar plot with Rogue considering to take the cure, but she ended up not taking because, you know, that's part of who she is, and the powers can be used for good. I went out of my way to see who else thought about this, and I ended up finding an old ancient forum post from all the way back when this movie came out in 2006. He basically says the same thing I did, and when did he make his account?
Top of the World Trade Center, morning of September 11th, 2001, 8 a.m.
While I did find X-Men 3 to be fun and entertaining at times, there were just way too many stupid decisions made in the plot. So just for that, I'll put the movie at C tier. It's lucky to be there and not a lower tier, honestly. Now we reach the end of the trilogy and there's money to be made still. Fox can't end it here, so what's a good idea? Oh, how about we make a movie for each X-Men to show the origin of their... X-Men Origins Wolverine is garbage, but I don't think it's the worst movie in the franchise. Like, there were times where it was entertaining, and Wolverine himself has never been in any movies, and seeing this movie in the modern day is actually kind of intriguing in a way, because it's constantly made fun of by future X-Men movies, and then when you actually get to see it, it makes sense why.
Right.
Love you.
Some of the action was kind of entertaining at times, but okay, we're going too far. The action was not good in this movie. In fact, most of it felt so unnatural and weird to the point it's laughable.
I believe I can fly.
He done it! Gambit was also wasted in this movie. I don't like how he was adapted here. The dialogue in general was just so off to the point it made me say, what am I watching? We can't talk about this movie without mentioning what they did to Deadpool. Oh my god, what did they do to you? This movie barely has any redeeming qualities, and while I was watching it, I was just like, how much longer do I have till I finish it? Origins was bad. However, it's understandable why it's that bad because, you know, it was made during a writer's strike. It makes more sense, but it still shouldn't be forgiven. I'm not going to put it on C tier, obviously, but it's not the absolute worst, because trust me, as we go on, there's gonna be even more boring and just super horrible movies. Dear God! What the hell happened in here? So I'll just place X-Men Origins Wolverine on E tier. Trust me, it gets worse. After X-Men Origins Wolverine came out, Fox planned on making origin movies for other characters like Magneto, but as time went on, they instead had a better idea. I think that X-Men First Class is objectively one of the best X-Men movies ever. There's not a single bad character in First Class, and if there's anybody I forgot about, I'd guarantee whoever you bring up is better than the bad characters in the original trilogy. Young Charles and Magneto are great, Mystique is at her best here, Beast is good, Havoc negs his brother, Sebastian Shaw is slick as hell. I could go on and on and on. I also really like seeing the plot in this story, just seeing the whole team set up. I love seeing how Magneto became the way he is. I love seeing Charles and Mystique grow up with each other and start to have differences as the movie went on. It was just so intriguing to see stuff like this. Just seeing the X-Men come together in general was so entertaining. Also, who could forget these iconic scenes?
Excuse me, I'm Eric Lensher. Charles Xavier. Go fuck yourself. prefer the real Raven. I said the real Raven. Perfection.
The only reason why First Class is not my absolute favorite movie is because it takes a while to get to the actual team stuff. Like, the X-Men is formed by like the middle part, but the first time they actually go into like a real battle was in like the last part of the movie, and it was very good. I love that part a lot, but it still took too long, and that's usually my favorite part of every X-Men movie. When you have less of that, it's not gonna be my favorite, but I still appreciate seeing these characters individually. There's not really much else to complain about, so let's just get right to the ranking. It belongs on S tier, 100%.
Let's do a quick recap.
Ever since 2006, which was when Last Stand came out, all we got from X-Men was just prequels. In 2013, we finally go back to the present. And how are we doing this? The Wolverine was super mid to me. While it's at least better than the previous Wolverine movie, that doesn't make it good. Rather, I think it's okay at best. At the beginning of the movie, the plot seemed pretty interesting, and then it transitioned into a very boring adventure. Ichiro was the only new character I cared about since Wolverine saved him from the atomic bomb in Japan during World War II, and he became a big businessman over decades of time since then. That's a crazy portfolio right there. Seeing Ichiro ask Wolverine for his healing factor was pretty crazy, but after that I didn't care about anything else that happened. Ichiro's daughters take up most of the screen time after the intro, and that's where it turned into a generic action movie with the only cool thing being the fact that Wolverine is in it. That's literally all I could remember from the top of my head. It's not even worth searching up more plot details to remember what happened besides the Silver Samurai thing, which is kind of whatever too. Watching the movie was such a drag, but at least it's not offensively bad. The only other positive thing I could give is that the setting is pretty cool, the visuals are nice, the action is sometimes pretty entertaining, but when you are not engaged to the story, it's very, very hard to care about anything else that's happening in the movie, man. Want to hear a hot take though? If I had to choose between watching the Wolverine or X-Men Last Stand, I would pick Last Stand because I'm crazy like that.
Really, really hard.
D tier. There it goes! See ya! Days of Future Past is 100% my favorite X-Men movie, and it makes me question if it's my favorite superhero movie ever. That's saying a lot, cause the other contenders I would have for favorite superhero movie ever are 10 out of 10 movies. Almost everything about Days of Future Past is amazing. The only thing I don't like is that Bishop was barely in it. That's it. That's not even a big flaw. The plot is so damn good. Basically, the X-Men have a problem where the Sentinels have taken over the world and has affected both humans and mutants, all because of one thing that Mystique did back in the 1970s, which was assassinating a smart little midget leprechaun. So all of the beloved X-Men characters team up, and some new ones, to prevent the assassination from happening. It starts off with Wolverine from the future going back in time while the rest of the X-Men are protecting his body from the Sentinels, who are terrifyingly unstoppable. And while we're on this adventure with Wolverine, we get to see him work with young Charles and Magneto from First Class to prevent the assassination. And it goes in so many directions after that. Both exciting and shocking directions. From start to finish, it's exhilarating to see these crazy events happening, like Magneto's prison break and that freaking perfect Quicksilver scene. Another great scene was when Magneto caused a crazy freak out after shooting Mystique. And we cannot forget about Magneto again going crazy at the press conference where the Sentinels were. If you don't like that, you don't like NBA basketball. Putting the crazy action scenes aside, Days of Future Past had so many great emotional moments. Seeing a destroyed version of Charles was surprising to see, and seeing him talk to the older version of himself was so beautiful to see, because after that, he became the Charles Xavier that we all know and love, and affected the whole timeline for the rest of the series. Another thing I love about Days of Future Past is the suspense. You never know what decisions some characters are gonna make, and seeing them do it was so insane sometimes. And finally, my favorite part of Days of Future Past is how rewarding it is to watch this movie after seeing the previous X-Men movies. Not only does Days of Future Past fix most of the timeline, but it combines both the old characters and the younger versions of those characters from First Class into one big, gigantic story. An epic and exciting story at that. If you watch the prior movies, it's so much easier to get connected to these characters, and seeing that ending where everything is okay is so satisfying. It makes X-Men fans like me who watch the series all the way up to this movie, it just feels like a reward. It's like, here you go. This is the great ending that you asked for. Thank you for bothering with all of our movies. Overall, I love this movie from beginning to end. It's obviously my favorite X-Men movie, and I'm gonna leave it at the top of the tier, at the highest of the highs. Thank God this movie was made. Deadpool saved lives. If you didn't see this movie in 2016, where were you? Okay, you might have been too young, or somehow wasn't alive back when it came out, but I can't say the same for myself. I saw this movie on opening weekend, and I loved it. Ever since then, I rewatched it a bunch of times over the years. But how is it as of now in my 19-year-old stage of life?
My friends refer to me as like the Rick friend because like I'm smart.
I think it's still great because it introduced the iconic Deadpool humor to a big audience. Sure, you could compare it to Kick-Ass, but seeing a Marvel hero curse so much yet be so meta at the same time in a big movie was shocking and super entertaining back then and super pleasing. Even though the plot was basic, it was still engaging for many reasons. The characters are fun. Deadpool himself doing Deadpool things never gets old. Blind Dal is hilarious. Colossus, in my opinion, is awesome. Weasel's jokes were hilarious. The only characters I could say I didn't care for are Francis and Angel Dust, but hey, at least they did a decent job as villains. The movie's meta commentary is hilarious. The fourth wall breaks, the budget jokes, all of it was well done here. The dialogue and interactions in general were super entertaining, like seeing Colossus try to convince Deadpool to become an X-Men, or Wade just talking to Weasel about anything in the bar. It's all funny. And who could forget the action? While it doesn't offer a ton of it, there's still a good amount here, and it was awesome to see for the first R-rated X-Men movie. My favorite scene is easily the one where Deadpool uses only 12 bullets to kill a bunch of guys on the bridge, and the way it made some like disgusting and like cruel scenes super funny is pretty impressive. Like, I should be like sad, but no, I'm laughing my ass off seeing these people die. It's crazy, isn't it? Overall, I still enjoy this movie a ton, but I wasn't sure if it's an A or an S. But I thought about it more. It had a huge influence on superhero movies as a genre. It's probably the most rewatchable movie in the entire franchise. And there's too many iconic scenes in this movie. It had a huge influence on my life, and it feels disrespectful to not give this movie more credit. After all the things I said about Deadpool 1, I think I have to do this. Deadpool 1 goes to S tier.
Oh man!
X-Men Apocalypse. What the hell happened here? Seriously, what happened? This is what we get after Days of Future Past and First Class? Not only is the plot super basic, but a lot of the characters are booty cheeks. Let me just list the things I didn't like about it first. Number 1. Apocalypse is the most boring villain ever. From what I can remember in the cartoon, he was funny, and he had insane powers. And did you hear his amazing voice and his amazing lines?
Beast, how many peoples have dreamed of my end? You are no closer than the Babylonians with their swords and fire sticks.
A mutant!
I am as far beyond mutants as they are beyond you.
The world won't stomach your evil forever.
Evil? I am not malevolent. I simply am.
In the movie, he's just evil mutant Jesus with no character.
Elohim, Shen, Ra. I've been called many names over many lifetimes. To give you something.
There's nothing you can give me that I want.
Yes, there is.
My son. Rise, my angel. Rise.
Are we supposed to be afraid of this guy? He has no character. Number 2. Magneto is a good guy again. For the 3rd time, Magneto goes from good to bad. In First Class, he went from being an X-Men, and then he became a threat by going all out against the humans when they fired missiles at him. In Days of Future Past, he was kind of like neutral at least, but then at the end, he started controlling the Sentinels and trying to kill the freaking political leaders. At that point, you would think he'd become a menace, right? No! Now in Apocalypse, he has a family and is trying to be a good guy again? Why? How many times are we gonna see this character arc happen? It's so dumb. Let bad guys be freaking bad guys. Why couldn't he be the one to find Apocalypse instead? And that ending was straight from Mickey Mouse Clubhouse.
You betrayed me.
No. I betrayed them.
Thanks for joining us on today's superhero adventure, everybody.
Hot dog!
Number 3. The final battle was lackluster. Charles fighting Apocalypse through his mind was the worst way to go. Because what the hell? Like, Apocalypse grew bigger in his mind, but he couldn't do that in real life, even though he does that in the comics and the cartoon. Like, come on, why couldn't Apocalypse be more destructive? What the hell was Magneto even doing? He was just like messing around with garbage. The only thing I did like about this movie was seeing the mutants hang out with each other. Like, I think this is where we got the best scenes of Cyclops. Cause like, you know, he was like an actual character here. It was actually interesting. And it was cool seeing him hang out with the rest of the mutants I know and love. Also thought Psylocke was pretty cool. And the action at times was pretty entertaining to see. Like, you know, there was just some good scenes. But most of it, it was just such a bore to watch. Like, I didn't really like this movie that much. It definitely deserves a D. It was just so boring to sit through, dude. Really disappointing. There's only a few seconds on the clock. We need something incredible again. Somebody shoot it!
You got nothing to say, mouth?
Another easy S tier, and I'll admit, Logan is probably the best movie in the entire franchise objectively. While I still take Days of Future Past as my favorite X-Men movie, Logan is just such a cinematic masterpiece. It has a super emotional story that captured my heart and made me depressed as hell. Back when I first saw it, I thought it was the best Marvel movie I've ever seen, but I wasn't super attached to X-Men by that point. But seeing it now on my binge watch recently hurt a lot more than the last time, especially seeing the scenes where Charles is mentally ill and expressing his true thoughts on Logan.
Maybe we were God's mistake.
What a disappointment you are.
The main part of the movie that really shines is the plot. Seeing a story where a dying and cruel Logan learns to love again, while at the same time experiencing death for the first time, it was all super engaging and thought-provoking. The adventure he goes on with Laura, aka X-23, was very entertaining, and seeing the ending made a lot of fans, including me, sad as hell. Aside from that, the villains made me worried about what was going to happen to certain characters. They genuinely felt threatening and intimidating as hell, and this movie wasn't afraid to kill beloved characters at all. Where did you go, Charles? The action in Logan was probably the best we ever got from the X-Men franchise too. The R rating is definitely deserved here, and it got reactions out of me too. But if we're going to talk about negatives for Logan, I have one opinion that's a little bit controversial. Let me just explain. One thing I think it should have had was more bonding scenes with Laura and Logan, because after I saw this movie again, it made me realize that Logan was being mean to Laura almost the entire movie. We didn't get much love out of them until the end. If anything, we see Laura bonding more with Professor X in comparison to Logan, which doesn't feel right to me when at the end, Logan's supposed to be the one who really cares for this person, yet we barely get to see it in this movie until the ending. If the movie was longer, at least had Logan actually cheer up a bit during the middle section, I think the ending will feel a little bit more earned. But hey, the movie's still great, and it's an easy S tier. That's literally the only problem I can think of. Even with that one thing, it's still better objectively than the majority of the X-Men movies, and any Marvel movie in general, honestly. Let me say something that will get some people mad. I liked Deadpool 2 more than Deadpool 1. I think the plot was better than the original one. Well, it's super complicated to summarize it, but I think the story had a lot more emotional impact compared to the original. Seeing Deadpool try to prevent a young mutant from becoming a serial killer and trying to form his own family after Vanessa died was super emotional and super engaging to watch. I even think at times that this movie was funnier than the last one. Seeing the X-Force die after jumping off the plane was crazy and super nonsensical. Everyone waiting to see Deadpool die after saving Russell made me laugh out loud, and the ending was freaking crazy and was probably my favorite meta joke in the entire franchise.
God damn, that's beautiful.
There was also a lot more action in this movie. From beginning to end, there was a lot of crazy stuff to see. The beginning fight scenes, the prison escape, the car chase, and the ending fight with Juggernaut, super entertaining. Deadpool 1 definitely had some amazing characters, but in 2, we got even more. We got Cable, Juggernaut, Domino, Peter, Yukio. They're all awesome. I love seeing these characters on screen. While I do admit that the plot is a lot more convoluted and the movie does drag at times, I just simply think that Deadpool 2 gave me more of what I want compared to Deadpool 1. And it's not hard for me to say that this movie belongs on S tier. To me, it's my favorite Deadpool movie, for sure. Now, we're at the lowest of the low. The movies that made Marvel fans beg for the MCU to take the X-Men the same way they did to Spider-Man. This is the Dark Age. From 2019 to 2020, the worst years to be an X-Men fan. And we're gonna start with Dark Phoenix. This movie is inhumane garbage. There's not a single thing I like about this movie. Every single character sucks, the action isn't anything crazy to go over, and it doesn't even make sense at times. I'm not even going to bother summarizing the plot to this movie. Let's just go straight to the ending. Why the hell did Charles Xavier retire at the end of this movie when he's literally still working at the school in Days of Future Past? Not only that, but they changed the school name from Xavier's Gifted Youngsters to Jean Grey School. Oh my god, the dialogue is also terrible and super unengaging to listen to. Because of that, watching this movie felt like torture. Thank God I didn't see this in theaters because it's probably worse than watching Eternals. The villains are also super boring in this movie. There's not a single villain I cared about here. Even the X-Men themselves were trash. Cyclops was improved in Apocalypse, but in Dark Phoenix, he's back to being horrible. He's probably worse here than every other movie he's ever been in. And same goes for Jean. She's so boring and we constantly hear the same crap come out of her mouth the entire movie. I'm sorry, I can't control it. I don't trust you anymore. What's also annoying about this movie is the way that the X-Men try to calm Jean down. Literally, all they say is, "We can help you. We can help you. We can find a way to fix this.
We'll figure everything out together. Just come back to me."
Jean, we can help you. I can help you.
Let me take care of you.
I can help her.
I need your help.
Hey, homie, you need some help?
Of course, they had to have Magneto in this movie too. I'm not gonna complain about him being a good guy again, but why is he here? He did not to be in this movie. I wouldn't doubt the writers for this movie killed Mystique just to get Magneto involved in his plot, because apparently there's a law at 20th Century Fox that demands every X-Men movie must have Magneto in it, and we had to make him a good guy in every movie. And what's even more offensive is that this is the last X-Men movie we've ever got. It's horrible, putrid. This is the worst X-Men movie I've ever seen in my entire life. 1 star, F tier. We're almost at Deadpool 3. Just one more movie.
Sleep this amazing? That's ZzzQuil Pure Z Sleep. Our liquid has a unique botanical blend, while an optimal melatonin level means no next-day grogginess. ZzzQuil Pure Z's, naturally superior sleep.
The New Mutants. Man, yet another boring waste of money and time. Why couldn't Fox cancel this movie and make something about the actual New Mutants from the Logan movie instead? I don't know. But let's be honest here, it's not as offensive as Dark Phoenix. Rather, the New Mutants is just simply not for me. I say that because it's a CW teen drama type movie. That subgenre of media is so boring to me, and the only teen stuff I'm into are like comedies like Superbad and The Ted Show, for example. But I still forced myself to finish this movie, and there's only a few things I liked about it. The twist where the main character, Mirage, was the one who summoned the demons was pretty interesting. The powers that Ileana, I think that's her name, had, like the powers that she had were pretty cool. Some of the horror stuff in general was kind of entertaining. Yeah, you can tell I'm reaching the bottom of the barrel here of things I like about this movie. I did not like it. It was super boring to watch. It felt like a Disney Channel movie at times. The CGI was noticeably bad. I feel no sympathy towards any of the characters. I just watched it simply because it's part of the X-Men franchise. Unfortunately. I could understand why some like it, but let's just end it here already. I don't like talking about this movie. It's not made for me. There's barely anything I liked about it, but it's not offensive, so E tier. I'm not surprised at how fast it was to go over this movie. After all of those movies, we're finally at the last one, Deadpool and Wolverine. I watched this movie twice in theaters just to make sure I got everything right with how I feel about it. And before we get to the ranking, let's talk about the positives and negatives without any spoilers. Deadpool 3 is very funny. This movie has even more meta jokes than the prior ones, and surprisingly, most of them hit, especially the ones I missed during my rewatch. The action was incredible most of the time, and some sequences in particular felt too good to be real. It's easy to admire how dreamy some of these scenes were. The first 2 acts in general were super entertaining, and the way the movie explained the exposition was better than most Marvel movies I've seen. Deadpool and Wolverine themselves were great characters, and I want to see them together more often. Hell, I might just go on and watch it a 3rd time because of how much I enjoyed them. It's kind of insane how rewatchable this movie is. Most of the time I watch a big event movie, only seeing it once is enough for me. But Deadpool and Wolverine on the other hand, I can take a dose of this every week, honestly. But I think the movie is heavily flawed. I'd argue Deadpool and Wolverine is worse than the first 2 Deadpool movies. I really don't like how it continues off of Logan. There are a ton of annoying MCU tropes in the movie to the point it's super noticeable. The plot is all over the place here, and the prior movies somehow had a better story, or at least were better executed. Also, the cast of amazing characters from Deadpool 1 and 2 are completely sidelined, besides Peter of all people. And the biggest problem I have with this movie is for a Fox cross MCU event, it's pretty underwhelming to me, and it's very confusing. Somehow, Days of Future Past or even the Flash movie doesn't give me as much of a headache as Deadpool and Wolverine did. When you really think about what happened and why it happened, it's just insanely confusing. You have to jump through a bunch of hoops to even recognize what the hell happened here. I want to like this movie more, but with all the problems I had with it, I could only leave it at B tier. It's a good movie, but in comparison to the stuff above it, Deadpool and Wolverine is a mess. Well, that was fast. After hearing all of that, you might be wondering, can you be more specific? Can you prove to me where things went wrong? Well, I have an announcement to make.
I can help you, but you have to listen to me.
I got a 9-page script ready to prove my point that Deadpool and Wolverine isn't as good as everyone says it is. Basically, I'm making a full review on the movie, but since I put on the tier list first, the review will be a lot more special than the usual Iron Germ review. It's going to be filled with spoilers, arguments, and I'm going to title it Deadpool and Wolverine is Overrated ASF. Okay, that's kind of out of proportion, but compared to giving this movie a 9 or a 10, it's not that crazy. I'm keeping my lips sealed until then, so if you're interested, subscribe now and you'll be notified when it releases. And no, don't worry, I'm not expecting it to take another billion years to make like this ranking video did. And that's the end of my tier list. It took so long to finish, but it was all worth it because I'm here to justify the time I spend on the things I love, and I love watching the X-Men movies, besides the last ones. But still, even if this took majority of my free time, it doesn't matter because I did it for the 110 subscribers I have. Without you guys, I wouldn't be here right now. So, thank you for watching, especially to the new viewers and those who waited. Thanks so much, and I hope to see you guys next time. And I promise, that Deadpool video will be super good, so make sure to be on the lookout for that.